Hello. Today we'll be making yogurt from the bacteria from breast milk. So the idea of this process came when I thought of how you make a sourdough starter. There, you start with flour and you add water and you let the bacteria grow, but you get a lot of good bacteria, but you also get bad bacteria. So you have to iterate this process of dumping some of the water and flour and then adding fresh flour. And I think the idea is that slowly, each time you add fresh food, the good bacteria eats a little more than the bad bacteria. And over time, the ratio to good and bad bacteria improves. So this method is inspired by that. So we'll first have our breast milk. We're going to heat some cow's milk up in a pot and then to sterilize it, and that will be our food source. And then once that's sterilized, we're going to put that in some sort of container that's maybe airtight and helps retain heat. And then we're going to put a little bit of our bacteria source in there and leave it for 24 hours. And after the first 24 hours, you're going to get something that's not exactly yogurt. It's probably going to be runny. It might have some mold and other organisms in it. But we're going to skim the top, the sort of bad stuff off of that, and try to pick the best part of that and redo the process iteratively until you get a good result. So the first time I did this is actually only by my second attempt that I was able to get yogurt. And then I did this 2 more times to finally produce my first breast milk yogurt seed. So this is 4 times of doing it, and I use a small container like this so I don't have to waste too much yogurt or waste too much milk. So we're going to first pour the milk into the container to see how much we need. Not that much. And then we're going to put that into the pot. Turn on the stove. Maybe not too hot. But we're going to bring this the milk up to 185 degrees Fahrenheit to sterilize it. And during that process, we should be stirring to make sure it doesn't burn. And you should also have a thermometer to check the temperature. Now that the milk has been heated to 185 degrees Fahrenheit, we can turn off the flame and let it cool down. I should have added that you want to heat it up. You don't want to heat it up too fast if you want a smoother texture yogurt. And also for a smoother texture yogurt, you can try to rapidly cool this in some way, usually by putting it in water or an ice water bath. So we've let the milk cool down to about 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Right here. We're going to take it out and pour it into our container. And we're going to leave a little room to add some of the milk. And we're not going to need all of this. We're just going to need a little bit, maybe about an ounce or 2. So I'm going to pour that into here. And then close it up. And now we're going to let this sit for about 24 hours. Well, it's been about 24 hours. So we're going to look at our, hopefully something that's a little closer to yogurt than milk. I labeled it experiment, so no one in the house put coffee in it. So we're just going to unscrew the lid, open it up, and see what we got. Wow, this is pretty amazing. This is really smells not too bad, and you can see that it's already kind of thick. See that? It looks like it's almost yogurt already. So just in case, we're gonna drain the top and sort of scoop out the top yogurt, and so to get rid of the bad stuff, and then we're gonna reuse this like we used the breast milk. All right, so now I've skimmed a good amount of this, hopefully the bad stuff off the top. And so I'm just now going to mix it, what's left, which I hope is good. And then I'm going to take this and transfer it into a sterilized jar labeled breast milk seed 1. And I want to do this just in case the next time we make yogurt I mess it up, so that we can try again. So I'm going to store enough of this. And this is way more than we need for the next batch. All right, now that we have our first seed, we're going to repeat the whole process, heating up the milk to sterilize it, letting it cool, and then putting it in a container once it cools down to about 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and then adding a little bit of the seed. So to start that, I guess we'll take some more. I'm using whole cow's milk, and we're going to put it into our pot and then heat it up. The milk is about to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're gonna do pretty much the same thing now. We have our cup here. We're going to pour the milk into it. So it's almost to the top. And then we're gonna add some of our first generation seed to it. So I'm just gonna open this up real quick. And the idea here is, this is not good yet, so it's kind of half rotten. So you don't want to put too much of this in. So I think the idea is that this is rotten, so you don't want to put too much rotten kind of milk yogurt into here. So you really want to be careful. So I'm gonna maybe take kind of like 1 spoonful or so, like a single spoonful, and then mix it into here. Mix it really well. And the idea, I think, is we're putting it into the food, the fresh sterilized milk, and it's sort of a race between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. So we're setting up this race so that the good bacteria thrives because it's the right temperature. We're going to keep it airtight. And so if you put too much of that seed, then the good bacteria can't win the race as well against the bad bacteria, right? They won't win by the same margin. So I think this is kind of a rule of thumb in general with making yogurt. And I've heard online that people are having trouble with making yogurt iteratively with Dannon or some sort of store-bought yogurt. And I had this issue too, and I was able to fix it by reducing the amount of seed I use. So now that this is set, I'm gonna relabel it so that no one touches it, and then I'm gonna leave it again for another 24 hours. So it's been another day, and we're gonna go look at our yogurt. Hopefully it's yogurt now, or closer to yogurt. And right here, I also have our seed. I saved that just in case things went awry with this last batch. So I'm going to open it up. And we can see that's really now yogurt. And so we're going to do the same process. We're going to drain the liquid on the top and then scoop the top layer off to try to get the best part of the yogurt. And then we're going to replace our old seed with our new seed, and then we're going to just do the whole process over again, probably at least 2 more times to make sure that we're not consuming any bad bacteria. So we've done this sort of experiment 2 more times. That is, we started with our seed, we heated up a little milk to 185 degrees Fahrenheit. We brought it down to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. We put the seed in some container and we left it for 24 hours. So now we have, I'll show you, this breast milk yogurt seed number 4. It's actually tasting very fantastic. A little interesting, I think, as I mentioned before, it's less sour than Dannon or store-bought yogurt, significantly less sour, which is really surprising and kind of interesting. I actually really like the sourness of yogurt, but this is still sour, and I like at least that it suggests that maybe there's something different with the bacteria composition. So we have our usual tools. We have our temperature reader to make sure we're heating the yogurt up to the right temperature and making sure that it's cool enough when we put the old yogurt in so that we don't kill the bacteria. And over here too, you can see my pot with a gallon of milk. When I make yogurt, it's a little time consuming, so I like to make it in a pretty big batch. So we're gonna do this. And as I mentioned before, the amount of seed you put in is very critical, and I like to think of it again as you're putting old yogurt in. That's yogurt that's already on its way out. It's going to be bad. So you don't want to put too much bad yogurt in your new batch. And so far, I have been unable to put too little seed. So it's kind of amazing. I've really pushed it to the limits before. But I definitely have made the mistake of putting too much seed. So don't think that you're going to get a better yogurt by putting more seed in there. And then the last thing we have is that after we're done, I'm going to store the milk in this cooler to try to keep it at the right temperature for as long as possible. There are other methods. I was using an oven with the oven light on, but the only issue with this oven is it has 2 oven lights, and I think they're heat lamps, and so they'll take the temperature above 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and I think high enough to kill the bacteria. So be careful of that. So our milk here is almost to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. It's about 120, and just some little extra things that I do that may or may not help. I have no idea. But I like to siphon off a little bit of the milk on the side. And so this little milk on the side cools a little faster. And I like to put the seed in there and mix it thoroughly. Now my seed here is right here. And I should have said that you maybe want to leave this out while you're heating up the milk to help it get to the right temperature. I've heard that maybe introducing cold seed with hot milk can maybe be hard on the bacteria. So while I'm preparing the milk, sometimes I put this in my pocket to help warm it up faster. So, but I think the important thing here is how much seed I put in. And unfortunately, I don't really measure. But see here, I'll open this up. Just going to recheck the temperature here, and it is looking good. It looks safe. You'll still get yogurt probably if you put it over 120, but since we're trying to grow the bacteria in breast milk, I want to make sure none of it dies. So I think that's a safe temperature. And I'm going to take my spoon. This is kind of a larger spoon. You can see it compared to my hand. And I'm going to first scoop out the top because that's maybe not as clean. Right? Get to the bottom good stuff. So once I've scooped off a little bit of that, I'm going to take a reasonable spoon full, like that. It's maybe a little much, like there. And I'm going to put that in. Well, I always get worried. This is right. So I'm going to put that into here. And stir this in. Make sure it's nice and integrated. And now I'm going to pack up the seed, reseal it, and put it back in the fridge in case we made a mistake. You don't want to lose your seed, and this way of making yogurt, you hope that you can do this forever. Right. So we got our seed and some of our milk, and if we look over here, we've got the rest of our gallon of milk in the cooler, and it's about 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to pour the seed with the milk into here. And then we're just going to stir. Make sure it's thoroughly integrated. So I accidentally cut off the video there, but the rest of the steps are pretty straightforward. So we were just stirring the seed into the milk, then we're going to close the lid of the pot and then close the cooler. And now we just have to wait for another day. So I wait 24 hours to make sure all of the milk sugars are eaten. But probably in 8 hours, it's already going to be yogurt. And probably by 12 hours, most of the activity will have happened. So you don't have to wait the full 24 hours, but we'll probably wait close to 24 hours. So we'll see you in a day. So it's been about a day now, and we're going to look into the cooler and hopefully we'll find yogurt. So here it is. And I'm gonna get my spoon. And look at that. That is yogurt. You see it? Take a little scoop. Fantastic. So the last thing to do now is to take our old seed and update it with our new yogurt. So you want to do that each time, and you want to just store your seed in the fridge, make sure it's marked so no one accidentally eats it, and you should be able to forever, as long as you want, continue to repeat this process and have as much yogurt as you want, and you never have to buy yogurt again, just milk.